It was a hot summer day and 12-year-old Jonathan Doherty was playing outside with a friend. The boy wanted to show him a secret.
Now you have to understand, in my 12-year-old mind, I was thinking, we're gonna see something dead. But when we got out into this field, there was this tree stump. He reached his arm down into this hollowed out portion, and I'm still thinking that must be he's grabbing the raccoon or whatever. And he pulled out this rolled up magazine, and then he opened it up, and everything changed. It was porn. I'd never seen pornography. I didn't know why there were pictures of naked people and what they were doing, and I didn't do anything about it. Because it was like, certainly innocence was lost there, because up to that point I hadn't been exposed to any material like that. But I think up to that point too, because there was still some innocence in my life, there was a great amount of peace. I didn't know what chaos and discord and pain and guilt and fear and all that was, because I hadn't experienced those things yet.
Pornography became Jonathan's secret too. At first he was confused by what he felt, but his awakened appetite wanted to be satisfied.
It was almost immediate that I started searching for more material, just sheer curiosity. I still didn't know what sex was. I didn't know anything about that. All I knew was there was something that reacted in me when I initially saw that porn. And so now when I see these lingerie models in a JCPenney catalog, I have a similar reaction, but I hadn't yet sort of turned the corner to sexualize it.
His obsession with pornography grew. Jonathan eagerly searched for magazines and images to feed his craving.
All through junior high and high school, I was developing this secret addiction. The foundation of my ultimate addiction was learning to have a fantasy life that placed me in the center and had everything in my life revolve around me. All these women are wanting to do whatever I want them to do.
Despite fueling his fantasies through porn and promiscuity, Jonathan struggled privately with shame and self-worth.
Especially for a kid like me who grew up in the church, and there's an additional sense of shame. What it led me to do was start to build an image. Build a church image, build a school image, build a home image, so that in each of those environments I have the right image that is creating the response that I'm looking for in people around me. Every time I'd want to try to really go deeper in an authentic way with God, it's like my lust would take me on a detour. And I just did that over and over and over again. And that does create a divide where you sort of have this public persona, but then there's this very broken private man. If you've failed for years and years and years in managing your sexuality, it's not a long trip to then think you are a despicable, horrible, perverted person and you have no value.
Jonathan met Elaine while attending college. They began dating and eventually married.
Well, what I saw in her was just this authentic person. I wanted more of that. I wanted more of her in my life, because I thought this is a good thing. To have somebody with that much faith and purity and authenticity could be good. Marriage cured me for about 5 weeks. But there was this sort of delusional part of me that said, but I can sort of manage it all. Okay, so I'm looking at porn over here, and I'm trying to lead a Bible study over here, and I'm really starting to get way too involved sexually with this girl over here, but I can still kind of manage it all. And so I'd say I was probably in college before I started having sort of a conscious realization that I have a really regular habit of sinning lustfully. But it really wasn't until I was married and had this other person that sort of acted as a mirror to me that I saw just the depths to which I was really trapped in this.
Online porn no longer satisfied Jonathan. He wanted more. He discovered cybersex and spent his late nights in chat rooms with women who became online sexual partners.
Jonathan would withdraw a lot and spend a lot of time on the computer, and anytime that we were together, he would be saying things like, married the wrong person, hurtful things like that, and I would spend my time trying to think about, was I so bad to live with? I started to catch him in lies, but not necessarily about big things, but about little things. I did find websites, I did find girls' phone numbers, but I was unprepared for the truth. I didn't know how serious things were, even though red flags were blowing.
I had gone beyond pornography. I had started to have affairs that I would set up online. One day I was in a chat room and a woman put 2 little words on the screen, "Want to meet?" And that was the first time in my marriage that I'd been challenged to cross a line out of the realm of fantasy into the realm of really real acting out. And I said yes, and I went and had sex with a woman. My downward spiral was fast and furious.
So was his guilt. He confessed to Elaine what he had done.
I told her everything. I told her about the prostitutes. I told her about the affairs. I told her about the internet, all of those kind of things.
I was just like a puddle on the floor. And that night, I did not think that the sun would even come up, because I just thought I would just die because it hurt so bad.
Although Jonathan confessed everything to Elaine, he wasn't ready to give up his obsession.
Less than a week after that confession, I was in bed with another woman. And when I came home from that encounter, that's where I saw my wife with her bags packed.
I knew where he had gone. So I packed up my bags and I left. I never wanted to talk to him again, and I never wanted to see him again. I never wanted to be around him again. And I drove to my parents and I cried the whole way. I just felt very broken.
When I walked in and shut the door, the only way I can describe it was deafening silence. That was actually the catalyst that God used to shake me enough to kind of bring me to my senses, to where I started realizing I have destroyed my life and the life of another person. If I don't get help now, I will end up taking my life. Just started sobbing. I felt as if Jesus himself came right up next to me on the floor and just put his arm around me and said, you know what, I know, I care about you. I knew this was coming, but this is right where I want you to be. And it was like the first moment in my life where I felt like, wow, that's what grace is. That's the God who loves me. That's the God who knows everything that's going to happen in my life before it happens and still says, I'm going to walk with you every step of the way.
Jonathan sought Elaine's forgiveness. He went into counseling and joined accountability groups. Elaine saw honesty and humility in Jonathan's change.
God began to work on my heart about forgiveness. Remember, you started your relationship with me when you were 5. I'm your first love. And how many times have you been unfaithful to me? Look how much I'd forgiven you, Elaine.
Elaine forgave Jonathan. After 7 months of soul-searching and counseling, the two got back together.
God doesn't give up on a marriage. When we first got back together, I caught him being right. I caught him being pure. I caught him doing the right thing. And that went a long way for building trust.
I believe God unleashes his power for transformation in the life of somebody who's struggling with sexual addiction. I've always appreciated the fact that you have truly shown me forgiveness, because, you know, you have never, ever brought up my past against me since we've gotten back together. And I think that's a testament to your faith and to God's grace in our lives. And I just so appreciate that in you.
Jonathan and Elaine renewed their vows in front of family. They became parents to 3 children, and the Dohertys now have a ministry helping men overcome sexual addiction.
It's God's story of redemption, and then be able to see that he actually wants to take our brokenness, my brokenness, and then be able to help others with that. Just having my wife back in my life was way beyond any expectation I ever had. For anybody struggling with a sexual addiction, the eyes are the most important part of your being. And when I say eyes, I'm not just talking about your physical eyes, I'm talking about your mind's eye too. Because when I mentioned about fantasy, I can close my eyes and I can see a lot in my mind. Just our vision, so to speak, our ability to see is so important. And I think that's why, you know, God has made us for innocence. So that means that if we have eyes, he made them for innocence. He made them to look on things that are pure. He made them to focus on him.